When you try a car in the race, things happen that are different from anything that happens in testing. Is that a psychology thing with the team and the driver, or is it just a factor of having other different machinery around you?
Oh, there's no question. Testing is, it's practice. This is real life. This is the real world. This is what it's all about. You know, you don't get many points for being fastest in testing, but you do when it comes to the race weekend. And ultimately also exposes all of the weaknesses as well. You know, you find that suddenly when you've got the competitive element and you see where the competition's at, that suddenly the car balance maybe isn't quite as good as it was before.
Well, coming in here as a defending race winner or a defending Le Mans winner, a world champion, puts extra pressure on you. But the contenders also have to find a little something. If you fell short last year, then you'll be desperate to try and improve on that performance. After the end of our free practice session, you were just looking at the AF Corse Ferrari garage. Their cars ended first and second. And Aston Martin with a little bit of work to do here in terms of their qualifying pace. But you know, you don't get an awful lot of points for qualifying. You get an awful lot more points on Saturday for the race. So it's not the end of the world if you can't out-qualify your rivals. No, but right now we're about to start in the battle for the GTE Pro and the GTE AM. And we have to say that in the session this morning in free practice 3, the Ferraris, both Ferraris of Sam Bird and Pierre Guidi, delivered some pretty fast lap times. They were about 8/10ths quicker than the Fords, and so from that point of view, I think the gauntlet was definitely thrown down. And I'm actually quite keen to see how Aston Martin and Ford can actually come back. And also we've got to not forget the Porsche 911 RSR as well, which debuted at Silverstone, the World Endurance Championship. Yeah, and that's a new generation of 911. Every time they introduce a new one, they say, yes, it's a new generation. This really is. It moves away from the rear-engined Porsche 911 format that has been since the 60s, the dominant form, and moves more to a mid-engine, like the Ford, like the Ferrari. The Aston Martin, of course, still with the engine out front. That big powerhouse between the front wheels gives it a very different dynamic to all of its rivals. But now, split qualifying works really well for the GT drivers. They don't have to worry about faster prototypes coming whistling up in their mirrors. And on the smaller, shorter tracks, that's a real bonus. Here, it's a little easier for the P cars to get by, but even so, when you've got a driver right on the ragged edge in a GT car, he hasn't got any room to maneuver, so not having prototypes mixed in with them makes everything a lot safer as well as a lot quicker for these guys. I think it's more clear, as you said, that traffic factor becomes less. You know, there's a 19 seconds per lap difference between the fastest GTE Pro and the fastest LMP1 hybrid, so therefore it's a huge thing, and it can actually change the way qualifying looks, so therefore the split qualifying is a good idea. Obviously it's also the average lap of the two drivers, the best lap of them, and so it brings back the whole ethos of sports car racing. But ultimately tomorrow is slightly different when you've got all four categories sort of elbowing it out for the same piece of tarmac. Yes, particularly for some of the gentleman drivers here who are, you know, in amongst Formula One aces and all sorts of top flight single-seater and sports car racers, just trying to make sure that they get the most out of themselves and for their team while not hindering anybody else. Yeah, it's very true. That's one thing there, in terms of the 92 and the 91 Porsches, they had a bit of a troubled time just going back to Silverstone, where one had a fire which apparently was due to a fuel leak in the fuel system. But also Kevin Estre in the other car had a bit of a crash yesterday up at the top of Lake Coombe, which was at the end of the long straight after the Radion Eau Rouge and Radion corner. Under braking, lost it, hit the barriers on the left-hand side, which ultimately lost them quite a lot of time. So they need to catch up, because they've got experience of this car, but certainly not the experience of all the teams that were around last year. For them, this is a new car, new concept, as you said, and they're, I think, learning as they go along. Listen, as a driver, you know, 911s historically have always handled in a set, certain way. Over the years, they've got rid of some of the real vagaries of having the engine out the back, but there's a way of driving them. now that it's a mid-engine car, all of that natural instinct. Richard Leach, you know, grew up racing Deutsche Carrera Cup, Porsche Super Cup, 911s, all of his driving, that all of those instincts that kick in instantly the moment a car gets away are not right anymore. They're not wrong, but they're not quite right. So you've got to sort of relearn all of that, particularly, yeah, if he was getting into prototype, then none of it would apply. But apart, you know, it looks and feels mostly the same. A
good driver's got to adapt. It's got 4 wheels and it's got a steering wheel in the middle, and you know, that's what you do. But it is difficult because certainly coming from the Porsche Cup and Super Cup programs, the drivers that came through that, they learned a certain style from very early on. It's like learning to play golf correctly from the start, or then halfway through having to relearn a different system. But the good ones can always adapt, and we can see that perfectly by a gentleman called Nick Tandy, who's in LMP1, and he's adapted his style as the categories go on. That's the way that it is. But yes, you're 100% right.
So what we're saying is, yesterday Kevin Estre accidentally called his new girlfriend by his old girlfriend's name. Didn't really get away with it.
Well, you don't usually get away with that one. Not that I've got any experience of that anyway. But
one of the other rules in the Pro class, the numbers with the orange background.
1 minute to open pit lane for GT qualifying. Under 1 minute to go green at pit exit for GT qualifying.
Is that each of the cars in the AM class must have a gentleman driver, a bronze-rated driver on the FIA scale, and he must be one of the drivers that sets one of the times. So you can't do 2 pros and let the gentleman kind of sit back with his feet up in a deck chair. He's got to go out and be part of the qualifying performance.
I think it says it in the name, Pro-Am. And so therefore the AM's got to do his part of the thing. He's there, he's part of it, he's part of the team, and ultimately tomorrow he's got to do his part in the race. And so it's quite correct that that is the case. You can see sometimes that some of the amateurs are better than others, just purely due to experience as much as anything else. But it's good to see that in
8, 7, 6,
Eduardo
5,
Freitas, the race
4,
director, just giving us
3,
a countdown to that.
2, 1. Pit exit is open. LMGT qualifying session has started.
Qualifying underway at Spa-Francorchamps for the 6 hours of Spa, racing on Saturday here in the Belgian Ardennes. One of the all-time great race circuits. And the fact that it is now 7 kilometers as opposed to 8 miles and more of the old historic circuit reduces none of the challenge, Alan McNish, even in a modern supercar turned race car like these GT Ferraris we're looking at. This track is a phenomenal challenge for the driver and for the machinery as well.
No, it's a stunning circuit, and I came here for the first time in 1988 to drive. I was here once before, believe it or not, but in 88 to drive, and it's had some changes to the different runoff areas and things like that, but whichever car you drive, however fast or whatever, it doesn't matter, it's still Spa. It's still got all the sensations and feelings and feedback, and when you deliver a pole position lap round here, you know you've had to work for it, and you've committed, and the circuit's giving you something back.
It's one of those names, isn't it? You know, Spa, Monza, Silverstone, the old circuits are classic tracks for a very good reason. They produce phenomenal racing. It's just something about them that has brought out the best in the car, the driver, the competition. 98 Aston Martin on its out lap. All 3 factory-run Astons are in now the same livery, so they all have this green and gold colour.
It's all the Pro-Am cars that have gone out at the moment, running around. There's not, in fact, the first Pro is an Aston that's gone out, Sorensen, as we're also 51 EF Corsa, so you're now starting to see people, they're really trying to stagger it, so not only going out together so they maybe get caught in traffic, and they're trying to stagger things going through, and also to ensure, so you see the man putting the right front tyre on there, that the tyres are as quick coming out of the ovens to stay at the appropriate temperature, onto the car, dropped and go.
As ever, only 2 men allowed to touch the car in the pit lane. In the garage, you can have any number you like. And you sort of almost wonder why they don't just have 8 people doing it in the garage and just drop him and send him straight back out. But away we go. So the first of our AM cars, this is the Clearwater racing car. Distinctive dark grey field gives the day glow highlights real prominence on this car. One of two run by AF Corsa's customer operation, Spirit of Race. The other one is a bright silver car.
Yeah, Matt Griffin in the car as he comes down towards Eau Rouge, first time. Did you hear a lift?
Yeah, no, but I heard the splitter bottoming out there at the bottom. You can hear it.
Don't worry about that, it's the lift. Did he lift? That's the thing. And it's funny though, because the GT car, it's on the limit of being flat out. When they do get it right, and the car has to be right, and they've got to be very clear in their positioning, then ultimately they can be flat through Eau Rouge. They've got to be careful that it doesn't actually scrub too much speed out of it, and sometimes can be a little bit quicker to lift. But it didn't sound like Matt Griffin lifted there on the first lap.
Done a lot of development work on that GT3 car with Michelotto, who builds the cars for Ferrari. And in fact, behind him, Ben Barker in the Gulf Porsche went quicker in that first sector. Pedro Lamy out in the AM Aston Martin, the 98 car we were looking at. Marco Sorensen, Michael Christensen, the two Scandinavians out for Aston Martin and Porsche, and Richard Leitz in the #1 factory Porsche. First man to set a flying lap time will be Matt Griffin. Raced at Silverstone in the European Le Mans Series and World Endurance Championship. British GT last week, World Endurance this week. Matt Griffin really in demand at the moment. The work that he's done with Michelotto has brought him in as a real factory gun, and the Ford's now also just about to head out on track. Car 98, the Aston Martin of Pedro Lamy, has had its first flying lap deleted. This is going to be instantaneous. The camera is focused on turn 4, which is the left-hander after the exit of Eau Rouge as you climb the hill. So Pedro Lamy's first flying lap has been deleted. He'll have to do another one. And the edge will be on the tyre on this fresh slick on the very first flying lap. So Matt Griffin just keeps two wheels on the track there as he exits the final chicane. We're still calling that the bus stop. Old types like me do. Ooh, the Gulf Porsche does not, and he's spotted by the cameras as well. Ben Barker comes across the line, second fastest, with a 0.8 of a second slower lap.
James Calado is the first one on the Ferrari, as you see the 51 Porsche there. And the 91 is now on the screen, but Calado is the one that's going quick right at this moment in time in the first sector with the 39.0, significantly quicker than anybody else in that sector.
Marco Sorensen's Aston Martin fastest in the second sector, which is basically downhill. And car 86, fastest lap for that car. Ben Barker, the Porsche, deleted exit of turn 19 track limits, so where we saw him running wide onto the straight. And Alan, how frustrating is that? 7 kilometres he was good, last 100 metres he throws it away. Literally almost the last 100 metres.
Well, that's the issue, is that basically you've thrown it away, but the tyre has also gone, as now Christensen and Sorensen are first and second, with Christensen popping himself up into fastest with a 17.185. Now that's half a second slower than the Pro Cup class last year, but it's significantly slower than they were actually this morning. And so there's definitely more time to come.
That's interesting. I wonder if the wind direction has changed or something else, or whether this first lap is maybe not on a fresh tyre. And
no,
there's not an awful lot of time to play with, but there is time to go and do another run. Of course, you've got to get your other driver in as well. So these guys, the quote pros, need to set the time. Fastest time of all now is an AM car, Matteo Cairoli, in the number 77 Porsche. So that's the Dempsey Proton Racing car. Looking at the 71 AF Corsa Ferrari, drifts out wide, all 4 wheels over the white line on the exit of the first corner. Now, if it's frustrating to lose a lap on the last corner, if you've drifted out wide and you get penalised for the first corner and don't know it, then you put in a real stormer of a flying lap, that'll be equally frustrating.
Well, this looks like it could be the fastest lap overall so far, with David Rigon coming into the bus stop chicane. He just needs to flick it right and keep it within those white lines. Gets a nice run out, and I would expect this is going to be P1.
Fastest first sector, fastest second sector, and fastest third sector combined to go 1.2 seconds quicker than James Calado, a 2 minute 14.9.
300 slower than they did this morning in that car, so it showed that they were doing definitely a qualifying simulation in free practice 3 this morning, but that's a pretty quick time, 2.6 seconds faster than last year.
Well, we're seeing lots of improvement in the GT class. We'll see lots in the prototypes as well, particularly in LMP2, which has taken a massive power hike over the winter with the introduction of the new Gibson engine. Here's our first view of the 66 Ford. Now, this has been the quicker of the two throughout free practice. Olivier Plat is up. He will be sharing the car with Stefan Mucker and Billy Johnson. So Billy Johnson, I'm not sure, I would think he won't get a run in qualifying. I think Stefan Mucker will be the man who does the second run.
I think the chances are that you're going to see the regular duos in these two Fords, and so Andy Priaulx is starting the other car, and then Harry Tinknell will take over.
Yeah. So fastest AM car comes across the line right behind. Matteo Cairoli goes quicker again, back up to 4th place. He'd just been pushed down to 5th by Davide Rigon. Right behind him, he moves up again, up to 4th position. A little bit of back patting there in the Ford garage. 67 Andy Priaulx on his lap. Better lap. Or good lap for him.
Though. Misses the apex there, coming into the bus stop chicane. Doesn't get it hooked up, so he's lost definitely a couple of tenths as he came through there.
No fastest sector times so far for him. Olivier Plat was fastest of all in the second sector on his lap for Ford. And Andy Priaulx does go quicker, second fastest. Again, the Priaulx-Tinknell combo outpacing Olivier Plat, Stefan Mucker.
I think there's probably a couple of tenths on the table, though, just by hooking up that final apex at the bus stop. But you're right that 67's ahead of 66 at the moment. But reality is they're 4 tenths behind the Ferrari of Rigon, though.
Yeah. Ben Barker back into the pit lane in the Golf Porsche. Car 54 had its best lap deleted. Miguel Molina, well, that was his lap 3, so his second flying lap, in fact. And that was track limits exit of turn 17, which is the last corner before the bus stop. So a very quick corner to try and hang on in a GT car.
And actually looking at track limits there on the entry to the corner, so you don't run off on the entry to maximise your speed and minimise your scrub through the corner. It's called Blanchiment. Yeah. In the old days, then it was a hang-on flat. Now it's quite easy flat, but it's trying to make sure you maintain that momentum.
Driver change, out gets Pedro Lamy.
Pedro Lamy, a little bit of a stat here from our man in the box. 14 pole positions. No one else racing in the category has ever had more than 1.
Wow.
So you got to say he's the man of qualifying in Pro-Am.
No one else has ever had more than 1. Graham Goodwin, that is a stat. Wow. So Pedro Lamy hands over to Paul Dall'Anna, the Canadian gentleman driver, bronze-rated driver. And Matthias Lauda, who's rated as a silver, will be the 3rd driver in that car. Second quickest in the AMS, 54 Spirit of Race Ferrari. Miguel Molina improves his position. He's still second in the AM class, moves up to 9th of all overall, and that's ahead of the 97 Aston. And we hear from the pit lane from Louise Beckett that, as they did at the beginning of the session, although both the AF Corsa Ferraris are now in the pits, they're waiting until the track clears out a little before they go out. So they're just keeping their powder dry. There they are, ready to go.
Just trying to manage traffic. You've got to be careful, though, because it's quite cold outside. It's 10, 11 degrees Celsius, and so track's also cold. And if the car is on the ground, then the tyres basically lose some of their heat and temperature, but they're doing a rear wing adjustment at the looks of it at the back of the car.
The first car we saw, the one behind, which is the 51, I think, had its wheels in the air, which minimises the heat loss. Having the blankets on would have helped, though. So 61, the Clearwater Ferrari, now out in the AM class. This car being driven by the man who runs Clearwater, Wen Sun Mok. So he is their gentleman driver. And there's James Collado looking at the monitors. Not quite sure what he's got to shake his head about.
Well, I think it's the fact that it's 1.1 seconds between him and his teammate was probably the thing that they're shaking their head about. You know, where does that time come from? How did he do that? Well, the time was actually something very similar to what they did this morning. And so therefore, the car definitely has the capability. It's just where did it go between free practice and qualifying? I think it's a scratching of the head moment.
Well, Davide Rigon set the time. Sam Bird is now in that 71 Ferrari. And again, Alan, because it is the grid is set by an average of the fastest lap of each of the drivers, it's not enough for Davide Rigon to go quickly. Sam Bird's got to get as close as he humanly can to that or improve on it to make sure that they stay in front.
Yeah, no. It is the average, and so therefore sometimes you have to actually bring your first driver back into the car in this situation for Collado if his time is not quick enough. So you actually don't necessarily always keep your fastest driver in. Sometimes you actually have to bring your slowest driver back into the car to improve his average.
Clearwater Racing comes across the line. And 7.47 seconds back. Now that is on the fastest lap in the qualifying session. So that lap was a 2:20 compared to a 2:14.9. And for a gentleman driver, that's a second a kilometre. That's not a vast amount of time to lose. If you were running and you lost a second a kilometre to somebody, you think, I'm there. In a racing car, we talk about a second, Alan, like it's a vast amount of time. It's 1 second.
No, in the real world, it is not a vast amount of time. In motorsport world, it's absolute light year of time in that respect. But it's one of the facts. Everybody's all in the same sort of situation. So therefore, right at this moment in time, I think there's a few people that are sort of thinking, oh, that second, one of them being James Collado, obviously, as we spoke about there earlier on.
Well, down in the pit lane is our reporter, Louise Beckett. We'll be hearing from her throughout the session. Lou, what does James Collado think? Okay, well, that was some bizarre... Okay, we can't join Louise because every time we try and fade her up, we get audio tone, which is not good for us and definitely not good for you. Another lap deleted, car number 98, that's the Am Aston. Car number 86, that's the Gulf Racing Porsche. They have both had another lap deleted, one with their first driver on the first flying lap, another one with their second driver on his first flying lap. And James Collado reporting to Louise down in the pit lane that he was struggling for grip. The Ferrari was, as drivers would say, a bit loose at the back, a bit wayward, and that's why they were making that wing change. Olivier Pla there watching the screens. Well, Ford second and third. Could we have a Ford front row lockout here? Only the 71 Ferrari at the moment stands between them and domination. And car 86 with another lap deleted. That's Michael Wainwright in the Gulf Porsche. They're going to end up running out of time in a session with no laps left and no fresh tyres underneath it. And that looked like a very wide lap from the number 91, which is Fred Makovici going by sister car 92. So ran out wide. And the problem is when the camera is following you, you don't know in the cockpit, but it's a bit of an own goal if you run out wide when you're actually on camera rather than...
You're only trying to sort it out as you go along. You're not worrying about the television cameras, in all honesty.
Well, plus every other corner has high definition cameras on it anyway for race direction. Car 66 loses a lap because of running out wide, and that is Stefan Mucker.
6 at a turn 7. They're being very, very strict with this track limits situation around here, and I would suggest that we're going to have one there for the Dempsey Proton Racing Car 77 that's just crossed the line now as he had all 4 wheels over the line coming out the final corner. And
that's exactly what we saw earlier, isn't it, from Ben Barker? A good lap ruined by running 1 foot too wide, exiting the final corner, the last element of the bus stop. Here we go. This is what it looks like from the splitter. Are we just looking for the onboard evidence, but that was a nice clean exit.
This is Harry Tinknell that's in at the wheel of 67 as he comes into La Source. He's got to get in towards that apex just as there's a bit of a compression, then get onto the power. Now it's clean, running down to Eau Rouge. Now, just as it opens up, you suddenly can see it for the first time, and it's a narrowing gap. You keep close to the right-hand side and then into the compression on the left, run the curb on the left, and then flat out up over the top of the hill. And now suddenly, then you see it opening up as you sort of take a breath there and up towards Les Combes.
61 Ferrari having 2 consecutive laps deleted, 1 for running wide out of turn 17 at Blanchimont, and 1 for running wide out of turn 4, or cutting the inside of turn 4, in fact, which is the exit uphill from Eau Rouge. And the 77 car as well having a lap delete. Saw Pedro Lamy in a helmet with John Gore of Aston Martin enjoying a moment like relief. Christian Reed out in the AM class Porsche number 77, way down the timesheets at the moment in 12th of the 13 cars, but that was among the very quickest of all GT cars in his hands earlier on. Christian Reed's been, well, he was in the FIA GT Championship, Alan, when you were racing Porsche. Gerald and Christian Reed in the GT class.
It's a long time ago.
That's only a few weeks. However, he's just, for all that experience, just had a lap deleted for cutting up the inside of turn 4, so. Looking here at the 51 Ferrari, currently lying 4th fastest, James Collado. Not James Collado, he's handed over to...
It doesn't look like the actual driver IDs on our panels here have changed over, but this is... Definitely Collado's already been in the car. He did the first run of that car, and this is a car that really needs to make up time as Puer Guidi is in, because they ultimately are 1.1 seconds behind their sister car teammate that's currently fastest.
Well, he's gone fastest in Sector 1 and fastest in Sector 2, the 71 Ferrari. Now the 51 car struggling for pace, as you said. Alessandro Pietruidi now does pop up. Davide Rigon still be shown in the 71, but unless he's gone back out for another bite of the cherry, we thought that was Sam Bird.
Here we go. This must be a new tyre set to be able to deliver this lap time. This is not on the tyre from his teammates as he crosses the line.
So only 1700s back. Fastest lap at 2:14.9, that was a 2:15.0.
Yeah, the average there being 2:15.0 of the 2 laps, and then Stefan Muka currently second with an average of 2:15.4. And so therefore, between the 2 drivers are very, very close. Tinknell then in 3rd position at 2:15.5, and then Puer Guidi in the car 51, and that's a 2:15.7. There's Stefan Muka's Ford that looks like is on a slowing down lap at the moment, or a cool lap anyway. He's got 4.5 minutes to go, and so therefore they're able to either do this slow lap and go again if they need to.
Team are anticipating that he is coming in this time round, according to Louise, down at the Ford garage. So that car currently lying 2nd. And the other car, 67, is in the pit lane. So if they are done, and they are done a little early, 4 minutes is just another time to get 1 flying lap in, but there is nobody at home at 67. So Ford have completed their qualifying runs. The 2nd Ford GT heads back into the pit lane. So still out on track, 71 Ferrari, 51 Ferrari, and 3 AM cars, the fastest, 77, the 2nd fastest, 54, and the 61 Clearwater racing car. So you can see across the scroll at the bottom of the screen, the current positions, which is the cumulative time of the 2, or the average time of the best lap of the 2 drivers. And if you want a little more detail, don't forget, by going to the FIA WEC website, or if you download and subscribe to the app, on the app, you can have your second screen, not only with the live timing as we have it here in the booth, but also you can go to the other timing screens and have a look at those, see what's going on with your individual favourite drivers or cars. You can also take a look at some of the extra features that are on the app and on the website. which are not available either broadcast or elsewhere. Now, Pedro Lamy, interestingly, Alan, with 2 minutes 50 to go, is shown as being on an outlap from the pits in the 98 Aston.
I think even more amazingly, not on pole position by the sounds of things.
Well, they've lost a slew of laps. In fact, we don't have a tally of who's lost how many laps, but there are a few gone astray for sure.
Yeah, they're for the pit limits, and the Ferrari team there are quite sure that's Collado on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
And so for him and Pierre Guidi, that's 4th place, but their teammates first at the moment and still on circuit. But this is 54 of Floor in the Pro-Am car.
Yeah, Thomas Floor trying to wrestle the car through the chicane at the end of the lap. And his target time, a 2:20.6. So he moves to 2nd place in the AM class, or remains in 2nd place in the AM class. Christian Reed's 77 car, with the time also being set by Matteo Cairoli, who did the first run in it. Proton Dempsey with the AM pole at the moment. And more laps under his belt. That's really probably quite important for Wen Sun Mok. I don't think he's got much prior experience here at Spa-Francorchamps, and any time that you can give a less experienced driver in the car has got to be worthwhile. Checkered flag will be out next time he comes round. It's a very Italianate discussion going on at AF Corsa, isn't there? I mean, James Collado is looking very Italian, going, "Whoa, where are we? What's going on?" Something astray.
Too many espressos.
Well, you tend to end up with something like that in finding that there was a broken spring or something that hadn't been detected after free practice. Maybe not, but it tends to always be something odd like that. Some smiles there at Aston Martin Racing.
Well, they're watching this man, Lamy, as he comes into the bus stop. And this is to start the lap now. He's got 56 seconds, so this will be his last lap as Pedro crosses the line.
So Graham Goodwin comes in with the stat about him having 14 poles, more than anybody else by 13. Is that now going to make sure that he never gets another one? Either because you told me or because I said it. One of us has got to be the jinx. Luckily, Lamy knows what both of you look like, so...
Well, a critical point is coming up now that he doesn't run wide. This is where he got pinged for track limits on the left-hand side at the top of Radion, and seems to be clear through that one. He's lost 2 laps through track limits, so therefore they don't want to make it third 3 times, because there's no way for recovery of this one.
No, there's no time left. By the time he comes around to finish this lap, the session will be done. Some happy Ferrari drivers.
Very happy lads there.
Yeah.
Quite rightly so. They've got a 4/10 of advantage over the Ford at the moment.
Davide Rigon and Sam Bird at the moment, unless we hear differently, eyeing up pole position. Very happy Davide Rigon there, hoisting Birdie up in the air. And Pedro Lamy, fastest first sector for that car. Now he lies 3rd in the AM class, and his poles, 14 of them spread in both GT classes, Pro and AM. Obviously him being the pro part of the Pro-Am format. And now, ultimate scrutiny. Neat and tidy, you can run up the curves, but keep 2 wheels on the track. It's like a Hollywood movie in the 50s. 1 foot on the floor in any bedroom scene, isn't it?
Yeah, that you see in the bottom, the target of 2:17.028, that's what he needs to be able to achieve to get this job done. Currently, right now, their average lap is a 2:19.878.
Yeah, so he's got to produce a phenomenal lap. Fastest lap in the AMs is a 2:16.3.
It's possible. It's easily possible.
Yeah. Fastest Aston lap is a 2:18.6 at the moment. He needs a 2:17.0. John Galt all smiles. Let's see what happens here. 2nd sector was faster than he's done previously, than any lap in this car that's been allowed to stand. Last corner, keep it neat and tidy on the exit. Here it's spinning up the wheels off the curbs. Come on, Pedro, and across the line. He goes top. Number 15.
John Galt very happy there, the boss of Aston Martin Racing.
Yeah.
And quite rightly so, because that's number 15.
Aston Martin getting their first GT3 podium of the season last weekend in the UK, and they get a GTE AM pole here. While Ferrari on pole in a pro class. Let's catch up with Sam Bird's teammate. Davide Rigon is with Louise Beckett.
Some great celebrations there from the number 71. That was a great run from both of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing for the pole position because we know that tomorrow race will be very long. It's the main important is tomorrow. But anyway, you know, we work a lot to be fast here, and me and Sam, we put all the lap all together. That was not easy here in Spa. I'm very, very happy to be back on pole position after a really quite bad race in Silverstone. So we're back, we have a good car, and let's see for tomorrow. But I really want to have a good point, to score a good point, and to be there.
And so what are you thinking about the 6 hours?
Yeah, I mean, we have for sure a quick car for one lap. We're working quite well yesterday for the pace, so we're quite confident. For sure, the competitors are very, very close. So the strategy will be very important tomorrow, and nothing. Anyway, me and Sam, we have a good feeling with the car, but we will be very close in the end of 6 hours. So we will do our best.
Thank you, well done.
Well, celebrating Ferrari's 70th anniversary, they claim pole position here at Spa. Ford second and third, and the best of the Porsches in fifth spot. The Astons 7th and 8th, but they have the AM class pole Aston Martin, courtesy of that last redemption lap from Pedro Lamy, and they are top of the AM class.
And that pole position for Ferrari from AF Corsa there, that's their 25th pole position for Ferrari in both GT Pro and GT AM category. And so, you know, they've obviously consistently delivering. I do agree, though, with what he said. Tomorrow is another day. And the other thing that sits back for me is the Porsches. They are 2 seconds off the pace. We saw that as well in qualifying at Silverstone, but they were a bit more competitive when it actually came to race day itself.
And Aston Martin, 46 poles across both classes. 46? Is that one at every race? That is one at every World Endurance Championship race. This is the 47th race. Well, let's get down to the 98 Aston Martin team. Matthias Lauda didn't run in qualifying, but he's with Louise Beckett.
Well, he left it right until the end, but that was so exciting to watch.
It was really great. I mean, in the beginning, in his first outing, he had a problem with track limits, so they took his best lap away, and he had to go out again with new tires. And we knew he had to do a 17.0, and it's already a very hard lap time to do, and it would be really tight. And he surprised everybody doing 16.2 is unbelievable. We never expect this lap time from Pedro or from the car or from the tires. And he was even faster than the Pro Aston, so with less power. So it was unbelievable lap from Pedro. Good job, and yeah, very happy with the pole position.
Thank you.
Really, really good point. Pedro in the AM car. All right, it's the same car, but a 2:16.2, fastest of the Pro cars, 2:17.1. So 1.1 seconds quicker than any of the Pro drivers could do. And, you know, that just doesn't help the AM class team, but it also is just a little, you know, he'll be walking maybe that extra inch taller, and let's face it, Pedro needs every inch he can get, being a genuine single-seater racing driver height. So the fastest of all the Aston laps coming from Pedro Lamy yet again. Having cleared the decks then for the GT cars, now it's time to roll out the big guns. It's going to be very interesting to see two things, Alan Manish. First of all, the step that the P1 cars have made, and then the P2 cars. Let's hear from Toyota number 9.
Okay, so track temperature is 18 degrees, so a little bit warmer than a few degrees more than the morning. So it's good for our choice. Also, we have to be very careful with the track limits. Several cars have been disqualified in Porsche with track limit over in turn 4, turn 7, turn 17. So watch this.
Now, I know I'm an elderly old gentleman, but turn 4, 10, 7, I've got no idea where they are. Tell me it's at Les Combes or Stavelot, and okay, I know exactly what we're talking about, but these corners have names. You know, we're not at Austin, we're not at you know, some brand new Tilkedrome. These corners have got names like Monza for a really good reason, because they were the same corner names when Jackie Stewart was racing at it, you know, when Jim Clark was racing at, when Graham Hill with forever.
Yes, but from an engineering perspective, it's much better with numbers. It's less chance of making a mistake. Turn 4 is the top of the hill at Eau Rouge, is Radillon. And if you ask, you know, different nationalities to say that word, then it can be quite confusing. Turn 4 is the top of the hill there. Turn 7 is the exit of the chicane at Les Combes. Turn 19 is coming into the bus stop chicane. So everybody in the whole team and structure knows it, whether they're at the circuit, whether they're unfortunately your age, or whether they're younger and just work with numbers. That's the way it is.
I grant you that, absolutely. No driver ever said, is turn 3 flat at Spa?
Yeah, but it is.
No, but they never did. Yeah, Eau Rouge is just flat on new tyres. That's what they're saying. They're not saying, yeah, 3's just flat on. You see, so I take exactly your point. And yes, I'm being facetious, but the drivers still say, yeah, Eau Rouge is, and then they put their thumb under their chin. Because in these cars, the P2 cars especially, it's just, if you're feeling very brave and confident in your setup on your tyres, just flat on a new set of qualies.
Well, these P2 cars are arriving there significantly quicker than they ever did before. They've had a performance increase of about 100 horsepower, that we know, and so they're arriving at the corner much quicker. They're over 5 seconds a lap faster in free practice this morning. It's a huge amount, and so therefore, you know, I can expect to see the fastest ever lap time by an LMP2 car quite easily this afternoon. And also, considering that there was a lot of changes in LMP1 over the winter, reduction of the aerodynamics and things, the teams have worked hard and got most of it back, and I would expect to see the fastest lap time in qualifying as well from LMP1.
And some of that, of course, is just what engineers do. If you use exactly the same car the next year, they'll have found a way of working with it better. They'll have come up with new solutions to issues that troubled them last year. So even exactly the same car can make a bit of progress. Tyre manufacturers will bring a new set of compounds and a little bit more performance for their cars. And so all of those little steps, even if the car itself doesn't change, driver experience, engineering experience, tyres, all of that helps. But LMP2 has had almost such a massive change that we could almost call it something different, because the cars are completely different from a range of manufacturers, which now is fairly limited, but they all have the same purpose-built Gibson V8 racing engine, so that's a big change.
Again, advise your drivers to track limits. Any track limit reported by the judge as a fact or noted by us in race control, the relevant lap will be immediately deleted.
You heard it there.
There is no recourse either. Brand new team on the grid, you just saw them there, Tocqueville Motorsport.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is green. LMP qualifying session has started for 25 minutes. Again, remind your drivers to adhere to track limits.
Heading out into LMP qualifying, LMP2 cars heading to charge down the field. Those are the two new spec Rebellions, Rebellion using Orica chassis rather than their own LMP1 cars this year. They're in LMP2 with a very different livery, courtesy of French comic book icon, French-Belgian. Michel Vaillant, I think he is French, unlike Tintin, who everybody thinks is French but is Belgian. And so the Rebellion cars heading out on track, being followed by the Toyotas. And Alan McNish, for the first time, 3 Toyotas in World Endurance Racing here at Spa.
Yep, they brought in a third car for Le Mans, and this is a preparation for that car for Le Mans. And so this is the first time we've seen it. I think there was obviously on the disappointment of the last lap failure of their car while leading the Le Mans 24 Hours in 2016. And a little bit of belt and braces, but it does bring its own problems as well, because the car crew haven't really worked together very much. The engineer hasn't really worked together with the car crew, the mechanics, and so it's not a case of just bringing another car. It's actually quite a big amount of work behind the scenes to ensure that car is prepared to the level where it can be competitive. However, strategy-wise, they've gone with the exact Le Mans downforce for that car, not anything tuned up towards what you would require for Spa, but an exact Le Mans.
One of the things that aerodynamicists like to do more than anything else is correlate on track what they believe should happen, courtesy of what the wind tunnel tells them, and that's what they're doing here. This whole race, this whole weekend, as you say, about bedding the team in, getting the drivers, the engineers used to working together under pressure in a race, but also it's the aerodynamicist ticking the boxes. Yes, that does what we thought it does. No, that doesn't.
Yeah, but it's also as well learning how the car likes to work, what it likes, what it needs for the drivers and everybody else as well. Now, you know, it's going to be difficult. I'd say qualifying, that car can be very competitive. Race, I think it'll be a little bit tougher for them. But for quali today, I could see it being sort of in the mix somewhere. It was very quick in Sector 1, up towards Les Combes, turn 5 for you, and very quick on the way back towards the bus stop chicane. The middle sector, the corner section down the hill, that was where it struggled in comparison to its sister cars on the higher downforce levels.
And you think, well, how much can downforce help downhill? Well, it's not just a straight downhill run. It's very twisty, very high lateral G, and you need the downforce to glue the car to the road. The two Rebellions following the Toyota up the hill.
And already they're quicker than this morning in the first sector. The Porsche of Brendan Hartley was, he went purple fastest, but then it's a Toyota Sarrazin on that low downforce car. The car we're on at the moment was quickest so far. However, this is a section of circuit that he's going to struggle, especially this next double left-hander, Pouhon, because you need total confidence to run the car up towards the apex to get back onto the power.
Great opportunities. You run on board downhill here to listen to the throttle response of the car, to see what he's doing with it, where he's just having to breathe it through because he knows there's not enough grip even in this on this sticky qualifying tyre. And now the low drag as you start to climb back to the pit lane, that really comes in there. There's Nico Prost getting ready for his run.
Oh, we've already got one in the wall.
And that's one of the two Manor cars.
That's a left-hander after the Brussels hairpin, the left-hander bend, and he's hit the wall quite hard. Looks like he's...
Well, that's bad news for everybody else because their qualifying runs have been ruined, and so have the tyres. And that's the number 25 Orica from the Manor team, Vitaly Petrov. So the Russian driver, you know, in racing they're right on the edge, but in qualifying they are right on the edge.
Yeah, but he lost that early just as he turned in. The rear of the car's light because you're turning right and then turning left into the left-hander, and he lost it very early on. But as you said, red flag, and that will ruin the laps of everybody else. Right, he's just on the curb.
Now, you saw the body language, the way he pulled his glove off in disgust. That, to me, and you might read it differently, that to me was a driver just really annoyed with himself. He didn't look back at the car accusingly.
No, he's annoyed. There's no question. He's just binned the car on the first flying lap. But you know, he's going to start from the back of the grid in that respect. So I think there's an element of annoyance, frustration, anger, every emotion that, you know, we've all made mistakes. It doesn't necessarily, you know, have to be in the car, but we've all made mistakes. And you know, when you're in your stomach, it just hurts. And that's what Petrov's feeling right now.
No question.
And just to note that with that red flag, though, everybody has to come back to the pits. They've all come back slow. That's why the other cars are not able to finish the lap, even although Brendan Hartley put in a blistering middle sector. And therefore, they're in that position. And then the clock has also stopped at 21 minutes. And so when it resumes, it'll be from 21 minutes and 5 seconds.
Everybody coming back at 80 kilometers an hour. That's the maximum mandated speed that you're allowed to do. Basically, pit lane speed limiter speed. Alan, is that what they use to maintain the speed? Do you hold it on the limiter all the way, or is there a certain RPM in your gear?
No, it's a limiter. Yeah. You can't afford to speed in these situations because you get a huge penalty. So therefore, it is definitely a pit limiter.
Just for your information, compared to the best Porsche, we're probably 5/10 down after 2 sector.
Yeah, just a little bit of information on that. To be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure why the Toyotas went past. They must have just been past, but they didn't finish the lap. Yeah. So officially, they must have been past the pit entry by the time that the red flag came out. So couldn't come into the pits, and so hence they have to go around. That's also a bit of a penalty as well.
Well, one of the Porsches has Neil Jani. The other one, Brendan Hartley, in the same boat. He was already past the pit entry. Vitaly Petrov, it's on that little curb there, isn't it? Just carrying a fraction more speed than the car could handle. Shouldn't be massive damage for the team to repair. Looking there at the only non-hybrid LMP1 car, Ollie Webb, third fastest at the moment. Let's hear from Jackie Chan Racing, Hopin Tung, their driver.
Your first sector, 35.5. Your second sector is 55.9, but I think the gearbox problem happened in that sector. Yeah, exit turn 7, exit turn 9, exit turn 15. Every time making from third to fourth gear.
So a problem third to fourth gear on that car, so it's changing up that the Jackie Chan Racing car had a gearbox problem which happened in the second sector. So he's done the first run from La Source through Eau Rouge all the way to the top of the hill. So effectively he's only gone up the gearbox at that point. And then after that it's been a problem for him.
Yeah.
Normally if it's a major problem though, the car would be pulled back into the garage. And so
it looks like
be too much of an
issue. Looks like you're pulling the lever and it's not changing. You have to go for it again because it wasn't undrivable.
You see the... It's like a slow motion video here as they come back to the pits. Now it seems silly. Why do you have it when you know where the incident is and they're past the incident? However, you never know what the marshals are going to be doing on the circuit at the time, so they've mandated that is the rule, that is how it is. And yes, it takes a bit of time. Yes, it can be a bit frustrating, but ultimately it's better than any other incident on the track.
Exactly right. It protects the marshals who are here as volunteers to look after the drivers and keep them safe, so keep the marshals safe too. And of course, it does mean that you can then do fairly extensive work on the circuit. 80 kilometers an hour, 50 miles an hour, gives the drivers a very long sight line for something that's coming up and allows them the perfect opportunity to be able to place their car to avoid slow-moving vehicles, marshals sweeping up debris, tyre barriers being repaired, that sort of thing.
Be interesting for Louise down in the pit lane just to have a little watch of what they do with regard to their driver and tyre choice, because that tyre that's been on the Toyota and on the Porsches will have dropped off in temperature, and to be honest, if you went straight back out now, then they wouldn't be actually very good. So you could think, switch to my second driver now with a different set of tyres and then come back to the first driver.
Well, here's a great opportunity maybe to do that. Let's have a look what happens with the number 2 Porsche. Hasn't yet even gone up in the air. There's the number 7 Toyota. And that hasn't gone up in the air, but on the number 8 car, tyres are coming off. And that suggests exactly that, Alan, that they're now going to have driver 1 go out on the fresh tyres for driver
10,
2.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is back to green. Pit exit is back to green.
Okay, so we go green again for our second bite of the cherry at LMP qualifying. Out goes the number 1 Porsche immediately. Now, don't forget that car was in the pits 4 or 5 minutes longer than the number 2 car, which had to do another slow lap, 5 or 6 minutes probably. Change of tyre on Toyota. And the first driver in any of these cars hasn't set a competitive time. So the deal now is you're going to have to give him the brand new tyre from driver 2, heat the tyre back up from driver 1 and give that to driver 2. So driver 2 is going to be a little bit at a handicap, Alan, but you've got to do what you've got to do.
No, he's making the best out of things with 20 minutes to go right now. It's a P2 car stalls just coming out of the pits there.
Yeah, that's the other Manor car. So they're down to only have to worry about 1 car in qualifying. The red flag was for a crash from Vitaly Petrov in Manor's number 26 car. So his teammate, 25 car, his teammate Roman Rusanov, I beg your pardon, Roberto Gonzalez does not get to drive. So no further part played in qualifying by that second Manor car. Their number 24 car with Tor Graves. And you would assume Jean-Eric Verne doing the work. Verne goes out first.
So that's all 3 Toyotas changed their tyres.
Yeah.
Onto a new set. Normally they do run 2 new sets in qualifying. We've seen that with Porsche and Toyota at Silverstone. Even though they've got a restriction in the number of sets to 4.5 for the qualifying in the race, then they still look for the qualifying advantage.
Well, the logical thing would be to have the fresh set of tyres on, and that gives your first driver a chance to really set the benchmark as high as possible, and then everybody will be on a 1 lap, 3/4 of a lap, maybe even only half a lap hot tyre that's been through a cycle. If you get their ambient back up again, there's a very good chance, actually, that the second driver may well be very close indeed to the first. So Neil Jarni with clear road in front of him, 7 clear kilometres almost, except there will be a few slower cars. That's Nelson Panciatici coming out in the Alpine LMP2 car. Not a hint of a lift.
Yeah, but you hear the acceleration after he got out. That's when he hit the hybrid boost and then delivered probably about 400 horsepower through the front axle and then shot itself up the straight. So they did it in a slightly different way with their boost strategies, but interesting to just hear it there. The intensity as the engine revs just ramped up after Eau Rouge.
Riding the curb, you saw the plank underneath the car, puffing up smoke as he straddled the curb there. Dropping down through Beau Rivage, or Bruxelles as we now call it, apparently.
This is a good lap by him so far. Very nice through that left-hander. That's where Petrov crashed on the right, and it was minimal time off the throttle. Now through Pouhon. This is a really sweet lap so far.
And the different sounds you get, you can hear the regen system sort of whirring away under braking.
Now we see it coming up to the second sector now as he comes through the right-hander, 51.5. That's the fastest of anyone so far. Hartley was very quick there, but obviously didn't complete the lap, but 51.5 is extremely quick. 1 second quicker than this morning in the middle sector.
Really nice looking lap from the #1 Porsche, Neil Jarni, into the final corner. Did he get in too deep into the bus stop? Just about keeps it legal on the exit. I think that one is good to go. And across the line he comes. 1:53.756.
Boom, take that.
And the previous...
That is an incredibly quick lap, 55.233 in free practice 3, and they've delivered a 53.756.
First ever World Endurance Championship race here at Spa-Francorchamps. Certain A. McNish in his Audi, 201.5. So, again, relentless progress in the performance of these cars.
It is, and I'll tell you that pole position back then was a very, very good lap. But,
straight off goes the #2 Porsche under braking.
That's at the bus stop chicane, that's coming back. Plenty of runoff area, and he looks like he's just run in that little bit too deep.
Matthias Besch, fastest of the LMP2 cars for Rebellion. Just been eased down to 4th overall by Mike Conway and Kazuki Nakajima.
It's a little bit of a silly situation there because the Porsche wasn't going quick, the Toyota behind him. He sort of turned in, locked up the right front, and then went straight on. Not really quite sure what was going on there. Bit of looking in your mirrors, I think, trying to keep out of the way, and then got caught in between rock and a hard place.
New tyres ready for the #1 Porsche. Neil Jarni probably won't need to do another lap. He'll come in now and give Andre Lotterer best possible opportunity. Now, whether it's new tyres or whether it is the set that came off from that aborted first lap remains to be seen. Stefan Sarrazin top. 1:53.6. Louise Beckett says brand new tyres for the #1 Porsche.
I did tell you that in the qualifying, I thought that car would be quick. Its speed in that middle sector, it reduced the deficit that it'll have in the race. And that is a good lap time. Sarrazin dropped from the full-time program and was only in for Spa and Le Mans. And so I would say personally important for him just to show what he could still do. Gianni comes into the pits. He delivered the first one at a 53.7, and then boom, Sarrazin's just gone that little bit quicker. Conway third on a 1:53.9, so it's Toyota, Porsche, Toyota, Toyota.
And the gap between first and second, 98 thousandths of a second. That's why you need that new tyre on.
Hey, if you're in by 98 thousandths of a second in your pole position, you don't care. You're still on pole position.
Well, it's better than 1,000th, isn't it? Much better. 7 Mike Conway coming to the end of the lap, not a better lap for the car. And he comes into the pit lane. So Neil Jarney in the Porsche in the pits, on board with the TDS Racing number 28. And that car driven by Ben Hanley making his first appearance with the team.
God, it looks super stiff as it is bouncing over the bumps coming into the bus stop chicane there. As Hanley now takes it over the line, drops himself into 5th place. 2:13, but Verne's lap time there in the LMP2 to lead that category at 2 minutes 0.9. Jean-Eric Verne delivered a lap time in a P2 car, as Menezes is the guy that's also fighting for that as he drops himself in. He's 2nd place, 2 tenths behind. But both of them are quicker than my LMP1 pole position of 2012.
Wow. Ooh, big mistake by the other car from the Alpine collection. Nelson Panciatici ran out very wide there. He's going to have to go for another one, unless this is his in-lap and he's just getting a hurry up because we're a bit short of time. Because that's the other element here. We lost those first 5 minutes. There's 13 minutes left, lots of time still, but...
Yeah, but remember they hit pause on the old time button, so it stopped at 21 minutes and 5 seconds. And also, this is an interesting one because here it's 25 minutes for qualifying, not 20, because it's such a long circuit. And so it's got kind of special dispensation to have more fun at the Spa track.
But the first 5 minutes, nothing happened because all the laps are ruined. So in fact, it is a 21-minute session, so it is a hurry up.
Here we've got the replay of what happened to Panciatici in the middle of Pujon, the downhill double left-hander. Then he just got on the curb in the middle of the corner between the two apexes. The belly of the car, the underbody of the car, sat onto the curb. His steering effectively was 0. And here we've seen another incident. We saw this earlier on with the P2 car and the P1 getting caught up there at the bus stop chicane.
Now, that is an outlap for Kazuki Nakajima, so that was where he wanted to get a fantastic launch out of the bus stop to start this flying lap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cars under investigation for speed under the reg flag, out of 17 in total in P-class qualifying. Some of whom were all probably already in the pits.
And one of them is the current pole position man, not the one we're riding on, car 8. That's a backward look as you come up towards Les Combes, but his teammate is the man Sarazan that was under investigation. Here we are, following into Les Combes, the right, left, and then downhill right-handed into the 2nd sector of the circuit. And this is where, in theory, this Toyota configuration should work better than the sister car, which is on a slightly lower downforce level.
So heading out of the pits, Nico Lapierre, Andre Lotterer, Kamui Kobayashi, the fastest 3 cars from the first portion of qualifying. And there is our view down into the pit lane of TDS Racing. And that number 28 car is currently 4th after Ben Hanley did his lap. LMP2 Porsche number 2 car. Brendan Hartley on board, coming back in now, it looks like. Ten minutes remain, so time to come into the pits, do whatever you need to do, and still get out and get one flying lap in.
Well, change driver, first of all. As they come back round, this is Blanchimont coming up now. This is where the GT cars were using too much of the road on the entry and getting track limit penalties. Not an issue for a P1 car or an LMP2 because of the downforce levels and the lighter weight of the car. And
driver waiting with seat insert.
I think we're going to have a few drivers waiting with seat inserts. Here we are. As Louise Beckett's just told us that Sebastian Buemi looks like he's going to be getting in as well.
Yeah.
As there he is. As he walks out, Nakajima gets out.
And in is the number 2 Porsche, Brendan Hartley, handing that car over.
Timo Bernard getting into that car. As the sister car 1 is now out with Andre Lotterer, who's kind of German-Belgian. He lives, or he's brought up in Belgium, but he's got German passport, lives in Japan, spent a lot of time in the UK, so he's international, is Mr. Lotterer.
Probably is, isn't he?
This is an important lap for them. They're only 9 thousandths behind the pole position at the moment of Lapierre and the Toyota.
Look how much the car is bouncing from curb to curb through the bus stop. So Lotterer only a fastest final sector as he built up to speed for this lap. And Toyota coming here after the first period of qualifying, first and second. So the Porsche eased down to third place because Nico Lapierre's lap was 0.4 of a second quicker. I beg your pardon, Stefan Sarrazan's lap. Nico Lapierre getting into the car now, the number 9 machine. And again, just to underline, the third Toyota with a very different aero configuration from the other 2 cars in the team. It's what we understand they believe will be close to their full low downforce Le Mans setup, even if it's not exactly with all the little tweaks and twists where they're going.
There's some small areas that you can still develop, even though you've basically restricted. Whoa!
Oh, well, we've just been informed that the number 37 P2 car under investigation for blocking Toyota number 8. Well, the Baicoles car there certainly blocked Toyota number 7. I wondered whether he'd get through. And then the Baicoles car spinning in front of the number 7 car of Kamui Kobayashi.
Yeah, but he had to get hard on the brakes. There was no way around about it. He was already probably on the boost as well, just trying to get the maximum kick over the line, but that's kind of ruined it all for him.
Yes, it'd have been just at the moment where he was drilling the throttle, wouldn't he? Crikey. So, Dodo Kreiheimer looping round the number 4 car and stalking away, I think is the phrase there in the Toyota garage. Yeah, arms folded. Body language is fairly easily read there. So Andre Lotterer for Porsche, with their combined time now off his lap, they are faster by half a second than the Toyotas, and Lotterer returns to the pit lane. Porsche have done their best.
On board, this is Nicolas Lapierre in the Toyota that was leading with Stefan Sarrazin. After his first lap, Sarrazin, car number 8, lap 9 will be deleted due to track limits. Car number 8 is Buemi, who's judged, well, it was actually Buemi's teammate.
Yeah, so it is Buemi now. But was that the fastest lap then for Kazuki Nakajima? Is that why that car... No, that car is
That'll be an issue if it
fastest. Well, it's been deleted already, but he's still second quickest on the timing screen, so...
Yeah, 9's into the pits. So Lapierre is down in 12th.
Yeah, their average at the moment is a 2:03, which leaves them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th in LMP2. And that is the car that set the fastest individual lap. So Sebastian Buemi in the number 8 Toyota. Number 7 comes across the line, Kamui Kobayashi. And there is the number 9 car in the garage. Teams with a lot more jiggling to try and work into the last 5 minutes. Alan, this has not been a straightforward session.
Yeah, Lapierre, it's definitely a bit of intensity now for that car. It was obviously very quick. Currently not exactly in a strong position, down in 10th overall, but as you say, 5th in the category. As there we can see the current car that's on pole position with not very much thought about going back out, but Andre Lotterer still sitting in the cockpit of the car. And so now with 4 minutes 50 seconds, it's basically one lap that will he'll get to try and qualify.
Drama at top of LMP2, fastest lap, or the last lap, lap 8 for car number 28, Francois Perraudot, will be deleted due to track limits. That car currently on top of the LMP2 pile. So that would hand pole position to the 26G drive car from the hands of TDS Racing, car number 28. So 28, we believe that lap to be deleted will be their second time lap, not necessarily the fastest. And lap 9 from car number 9, the Toyota, will be deleted due to track limits. Just seeing the number 1 Porsche nice and clean through the bus stop. That was a few laps ago.
8 done his lap. That was Buemi, who's just completed their second lap, but that's 9/10 of a second away as Kobayashi just pops in ahead of him in the sister car, in car number 7 into second place. But this is a slow lap by Buemi. I'd have thought he's basically in a chance to recharge all the hybrid system to maximum capacity and then go again, but the tyres are also 1 lap older.
Well, not a bad lap from Kobayashi. Don't forget he'll have tyres like threatening bits after avoiding that spinning car at the beginning of the previous attempt. Into the pits, Matt Rao in the 36 Alpine, which currently lies second. Pierre Thierry's number 26 TDS car on top of the pile in the LMP2 class. This is the remaining Manor car. Number 24 machine with the bright yellow highlights, Tor Graves, Jonathan Hershey, Jean-Eric Verne. Jeff did the first session and Tor Graves doing the second. That car third in the LMP2 category. This all allows for any laps later to be deleted by stewards for various other reasons. But all eyes on Toyota number 9, really, to see whether they can produce another lap to match their fastest first one, which a 1:53.65 is still the quickest lap we've had. First sector for Kamui Kobayashi, who we ride with, nothing special, not even a best one for this car.
It's Toyota, not quite what they expected, these guys, to be honest with you, because, you know, they should, in theory, be topping the timesheets as they did in practice this morning, where they were first, second and third, so it was a bit of dominance, and then suddenly it's all sort of gone awry for different reasons, though, not necessarily pure performance.
No, absolutely. First flying lap, red flag. His Kamui Kobayashi's first attempt to start a flying lap, spun car in front of him. Kobayashi comes in, so he's had the best out of his tyres. And at the moment, you know, they're second, they're on the front row of the grid. All you're going to do is change sides.
Yeah, the question is this car, Nicolas Lapierre, 1 minute 28 seconds. So far is the fastest car over the single lap on a 53.658, but with various reasons is nowhere near it when it comes to the average of the 2 drivers. Stefan Sarazan is the guy that stuck in that quick lap as he comes out of the bus stop chicane now.
Well, of course, all he's doing now is trying to move them further forward from all the LMP2 cars, so they're not stuck in the middle, and he comes across the line, third fastest among the LMP1 cars and between his 2 Toyota Timos. So that's another top draw lap from Nico Lapierre, dropped by Toyota at the end of 2015. Looks like he might be digging the fat out of the fire for them in 2017.
Yeah, certainly in qualifying situation, that's the case.
What about Buemi here in the number 8 car? He's the last one really to have a tilter improving. Again, not a personal best, sector 1 or 2. You heard it lock up and just squirm. And they've gone out on an older set of tyres as well. So no improvement there.
Once it got in too deep, then there was no way to beat this car. Car number 1, and first pole position for Andre Lotterer after switching camps over the winter. So he'll be smiling more than he was at Silverstone.
Yeah. Good to see the driver coming together with the car and the team, a whole new family to learn to work with. And Andre Lotterer just has that ability to pull out the speed time after time. Shares the car with Neil Jarni and Nick Tandy, and our LMP2 pole is the Thierry by TDS car, number 26, TDS Racing's Orica Gibson, Ben Hanley and Francois Perrodo setting the time, although Pierre Thiriet also being shown on our screen. So we've seen all three drivers shown, so not sure which one of the two that was on screen didn't happen. 31 thousandths, Graham Goodwin of dailysportscar.com tells us, between the top 4 in LMP2. That's quite impressively competitive. And Alan McNish, that stretches all the way down that field as well. They've all got the same motive power unit and very similar chassis.
Well, it's pretty impressive because of the way that it runs, and I have to say that, you know, over this length of lap, that is extremely tight, and it does bode for a fantastic race tomorrow, exactly as we had at Silverstone, where it ebbed and flowed. Different teams came into their own at different points. It wasn't a runaway in LMP1 or in LMP2, or GTE, actually, in either category. And so I expect that Silverstone entertainment will just continue. But right now, the smiles and today's glory definitely goes to this car crew.
It's great to see different cars with different strengths and different weaknesses, because that brings all sorts of unpredictables into the mix. Well, as the G-Drive team pose for their photo, let's get down to Porsche and hear from Andre Lotterer, who's with Louise Beckett.
Well, that red flag didn't help anybody, but it certainly came together for you guys.
Yeah, it helped out a bit. I think it put trouble to everybody, and somehow it worked out for us. But nevertheless, Neil did an amazing lap. You know, 53. It's pretty fast around here. And yeah, for me it went smooth as well. A bit conservative. I didn't know how much grip to expect, and there was so much grip there. So great performance by everybody, by the team, and we were not sure we could beat the Toyotas because they looked very strong on the lap, but we did it. So first job done, and second job tomorrow to win the race.
Well done.
Well, he's not unfamiliar with starting at the front of the field, whether he takes the start or not. And Alan, you know, again, Porsche did well to be able to bed him into the team nicely, and they will start the second race of the campaign from the very top spot on the grid.
Yeah, but I think we probably didn't see the best, if we're being truthful about it, from Toyotas or also the sister car at Porsche, because if we remember when the red flag came out, they had to then drive around at 80 kilometers per hour, tyres cooling down, compromise completely their qualifying session, and everything else was a recovery from there. And so you've got to congratulate the car that's on pole position, but I think it does set itself up that tomorrow maybe there's going to be a little bit more pushing and shoving in the first few laps where it settles itself down again.
Yeah, I think it's, if you put money on anybody here, it's with heart rather than head, isn't it? This is far too close to call. And the same, I think, can be said certainly in LMP2 and in GTE Pro and AM. Again, if you pick a winner, it's just because they're your favourite rather than there's anything guaranteed. Let's catch up with Alex Lynn, pole sitter with the number 26 Oreca in LMP2.
Well, Alex Lynn, this feels familiar from Silverstone.
Yeah, no, it's nice to repeat the Silverstone pole position, and yeah, here we are, Spa, starting on pole again. So I think the big step for us this time is we want to finish where we're starting and hopefully have a good result tomorrow.
How did it all come together for you out there?
Actually, it was quite a difficult session. Obviously, with the red flag early on, we had to make a call on whether we went new tyres again. Pierre had a car spin on one of his good laps, so in actual fact, it was quite eventful. And I think it's like 200s we got pole position by, so very, very close today.
So did you swap to new tyres at that point?
Yeah, we went new again because the new set we started on only done an out lap, so we thought, why not, you know, save those tyres for the race. They'll be nicely bedded in.
Okay, well, we'll see them out there in the race tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Qualifying for round 2 of the FIA World Endurance Championship at Spa-Francorchamps, one of the greatest tracks on the planet to challenge whether you're racing or qualifying, no matter what your machinery. With 4 classes split into 2 qualifying fields, always difficult to predict a fastest lap. Would it be Aston or Ferrari? Would it be Porsche in the GTE AM class? In the end, top 3 showed a mix of competition, but in the last seconds of qualifying, Pedro Lamy claiming his 15th GT pole, putting the Aston number 98 on the AM class top step. Ford and Ferrari battling with each other for dominance in the GTE Pro class. And both of the Ford GTs starting at the sharp end of the Pro grid. But in the end, one car seemed to stand head and shoulders above the other. Number 71 Ferrari outpaced not just the Fords, but their own teammates. James Collado and Sam Bird doing a superb job for pole.
Turn 7, turn 17.
Into the LMP session. LMP1s and LMP2s. LMP2s significantly quicker this season after an upgrade in performance courtesy of their Gibson engines. But 4 minutes into the session, it was stopped after an accident for Vitaly Petrov in one of the two Manor LMP2 cars. And that left everybody with one part-used set of tyres and 5 minutes less to try and put their qualifying act together. In the LMP2 class, it was a good run from the G-Drive and Alpine cars as they squabbled for dominance at the top. And in the end, repeating their success of Silverstone, G-Drive came out with the LMP2 pole. Things were even more jumbled up. The number 9 low-drag Toyota was fastest of all in the first runs in LMP1, but couldn't find the clean run it needed in the second run. The number 7 and 8 Toyotas not only had to deal with the older tyres courtesy of the red flag, but also being held up. And in the end, number 1 Porsche team claimed pole position. Qualifying done and dusted at Spa-Francorchamps. It has been dry for all track action so far, and the forecast for Sunday remains benevolent. You can never tell in the Ardennes, but it should be dry, fast and fascinating. Wherever you are, please do join us. We'll be bringing you all the action from start to finish. Race 2 of the 2017 FIA World Endurance Championship, the 6 hours of Spa-Francorchamps.